system that someone else has. And you underpin this with the data hub thing itself. This is everything somewhere for everyone. And these are typically customer-bred solutions. This might be Apple's iTunes or Google's Music. It sits in a repository and it's accessible, but it's accessible to the same performance and quality service everywhere in the world. You don't do that by having the same thing in 3 regions or the same thing in 20 countries. You need an interconnection strategy that gets you closer to it in the most efficient way possible.
Andrew, you posed a question earlier. The theme of today, I've sat here on most of the presentations, and the theme has been digital disruption, transformation, demanding customers.
Mm-hmm.
And you touched on it in terms of customers wanting experience and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How specifically is that feeding through your customers and then to you? I'm just thinking, no longer is it sort of necessary that I have a peak over Christmas. I might well be saying I need 24/7, 365 perfect service. I can't. To what extent are you getting that message through to you, and how are you responding to that?
Yeah, excellent question and observation, thank you, because a lot of the customers that have grown up with Equinix, like LinkedIn and Box, they've become big enough to have their own data stacks, but they still reside within Equinix because they understand that experience with the customer is the most important thing. Having the information is one thing, governance, risk, compliance, availability, great. Having it usable is another thing altogether. Even Facebook have points of presence around the world with Equinix for that proximity to the internet, proximity and adjacency to the customers and accessing points and people, because we're not talking just about us as users checking our page, we're talking about content distribution, advertising, and we have advert exchanges. All of this type of thing comes together within Equinix, and that's an ecosystem we bring. So when we see digital business in our data centers, it's kind of always been there. We've just not asked our customers, what are you doing with it and how can we help you do it better, until about 5 years ago. And now we're bringing this to the forefront. Did I touch on most of that? I'll probably come back to a couple of things in a second as well. So again, if I just look at the people side of things, because talent management within an organisation, HR as a service, everything like this, it's becoming not more difficult to do, but more difficult to create a sticky environment, create obviously a brand where people want to come to you. And how do you do that? Well, you give them the best employee experience so that they go to Glassdoor or whatever review website and say, my company's great. We're top of league. And you can only do that by making sure the workload applications are delivered in the right way. IT is fully supported. You're not mass installing applications on a desktop. You're leveraging cloud where possible, etc. And you get around that headache of if you're not in HQ, you're going to get a poor experience. I've been there. Through many organisations through the 90s. I won't say 80s, I wasn't that old. But that was a problem, and we had to deploy full sets of infrastructure in other regions and geographies just to get over that problem. And the same comes through with the locations itself. I guess on the global side of things, it's easy to say, I just need this everywhere, and then selectively look for service platforms, integration platforms that can deliver it. Equinix, for example, was first to market with Cloud Exchange. This is a customer's private wire connection to the cloud. So Google, VMware, Amazon Web Services, the top 20 basically come into the Cloud Exchange. And our customers, not just the ones in our data centers, but the ones that still manage their data centers and connect to us, have the ability to have a 1 gig, 10 gig connection, whatever it is, to that, and have a multiple cloud experience that they manage and run and define in a private environment. Now, one of the great use cases from HarperCollins, which is on our website, was an example of just that. They had a multi-cloud concept strategy. But their biggest problem was the internet offers no quality of service. It doesn't. It's best efforts at best. Network service providers try and help out in this space by putting a managed service layer on it. MPLS, it has its uses as well. But there's a tipping point. That gets quite expensive as you ramp up. But if you own that bit of copper or fiber to a cloud exchange and it's on your network, you understand it, you trust it, you govern it, it's risk-free because you completely get it. And the economies of scale are a factor of 8 to 1 saving. It's ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, that is just a set of APIs, a cable, and Equinix intelligence. You're not reliant on cages and racks of infrastructure to hook up to an MPLS. Kind of touched on a lot of this as we've been going through. Cloud is simply the most important thing to our customers today. We have an organisation that we presented with at the Gartner Summit a month ago in the US, the Weather Channel. And they quite blatantly said, look, we love Equinix, but we don't use them for co-location. We are 100% public cloud. We use Equinix for the Cloud Exchange and Performance Hub so that they can deliver that experience that we expect to our customers and that we can pick any cloud that we like. They use 5 active clouds today. They are platform independent and they don't mind if Google goes down one day or Amazon the next day. It's irrelevant to them. Their platform stays up. Very advanced thinking, probably the only company in the room that dared to say as much. Public cloud was all about where their business was going to be, and it's going to stay there. Would we convince major enterprises to do the same thing? Probably not. We're, as an enterprise group, we're very risk averse. We have to comply to certain other areas for data sovereignty, security, etc. But understanding that the multi-cloud option is out there, it's imperative, and that it can be leveraged today. And the data itself. So I guess the one thing people don't get with cloud connectivity and stuff like this is the impact data has on it. If you are just consuming cloud storage and putting stuff up there, it's pretty much free. Try and get it back, and you get a cost per megabyte that starts wrapping up. It might only be 0.05 cents a megabyte, but it starts ramping up. So with a private cloud exchange connection, well, you own that. You can put up and down terabytes all day, whatever you need. But with all the public cloud service offerings, you start to see that charge coming back. Not a customer of ours, but a great working example is UCAS, who up until 3 years ago we saw in the news every summertime as having problems with clearing. And they moved to an AWS strategy. And all of a sudden, the next summer, we didn't hear a thing. And it was about 3 months after I thought, didn't hear that this year. So I called them up and said, how did you do that? I'm like, we went to Amazon. We put everything in the cloud. Our infrastructure couldn't cope. But they saved money by doing that. And having that private connection, they could shift petabytes of data up and down from test, dev, UAT into production seamlessly. Saved money, obviously credibility came back, and overall their cost of operating, not just what would have been IT infrastructure, service and people, just flattened out. So that's not their numbers, by the way. This is just a market impact assessment. So at this point, I'd appreciate some questions. There's some areas that I could certainly deeper dive. A lot of areas of interest that I have are obviously around the business cases that are readily available today. So I've got one here that I'll just start with, if that's all right. It's CDM Smith. You might not know the name, massive engineering organisation. Global consulting, engineering, construction operation company. I didn't realise how big they were and who they were until they came into our data centres and said, yeah, we'll probably have that bit. And we're like, oh, Christ, okay. Their biggest challenge was, and I'm going to read this verbatim because my boss spent a lot of time and money trying to get this right, and I don't want to belittle his efforts here because it's spot on. They were committed to exceptional client service. CDM Smith believes in working together, in teams, and in partnerships with their clients, and to solve environmental and infrastructure challenges. Now, to me, that's a company with a vision and a statement that they're going to execute against. So what sort of problems were they experiencing? Initially, it was around the latency. They had a highly federated networks, the typical IT challenges that we see in the industry today. But more importantly, their users didn't want to use their systems. They were using Dropbox and other bits and pieces for file services. You know, they were